We expect next year to be a big deal year. So both in terms of size of deals, number of deals. The question is, when is it going to start? Why have we frozen up on deal activity today? It's largely because there's been a bid-ask spread disconnect between buyers and sellers. Why is that happening? Buyers still face some, cloudy sort of economic concerns for the end of 24, and sellers, frankly, don't need to sell, and they certainly don't need to sell at these asks. So I think that'll tighten up sometime into Q1 next year, and we'll see more activity.
Well, what is the trigger for that? Is it just enough time has passed? What happens in Q1 that the gap closes?
I think the clock's ticking both on the amount of dry powder that private equity groups and infrastructure funds have raised, as well as the return of capital, which sponsors need to do through exiting their portfolio companies. So as time moves on, and we've seen 18 months of this freeze, we expect that to thaw a bit.
Anthony, good morning to you. It's Madison in New York. You talk about dry powder. We're trying to contextualize the flow that can come in to this market next year. What is the size of the institutional dry powder? I know that on the retail side, there's $5 trillion in money market funds. So that can also seep its way into the system. But from an institutional point of view, what kind of gunpowder is there really to play?
Well, incredibly, we estimate there's $3 trillion worth of dry powder in private hands, and that's the private market, so private equity funds, infrastructure funds, sovereigns, pension funds, and that today is sitting on the sidelines. To offset that, we typically see, and this chart's a great example of it, we typically see, something like $1 trillion worth of deal activity. That should be ticking up. It's gone the other way, and so that gap that you see there in 2022, 2023 will be made up over the next 2 years. It's a fundamental factor, and that needs to happen.
That sounds pretty huge. Is that a record year? Does it have a corollary? Does it look like 2021? What is actually the scale of the explosion from this?
Well, we shall see, but there's certainly a record number of dry powder, record lows in terms of deal activities, and so the difference between the two should mean we would expect, at Citi, we're expecting 24 certainly to be the beginning, and 25 to be record deal years.